Good morning and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane, Washington, where our mission is about transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. My name is Reverend Jane Simmons, and I'm here with Dr. Gary Simmons, my co-minister, and he will be leading our talk today. You'll hear from him a little later. But we want to begin by sharing together our opening affirmation. I will speak it once, and then I'll invite you from wherever you are geographically to speak it out loud with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together, please.
There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good.
One presence, one power, one life, living itself through and as each one of us. We want to begin with some news you can use. And so we have 3 classes coming up. One of them, Reverend David McClure, is beginning his class on creating a world that works for all. Very timely class. It's based on the book of that name by Sharif Abdullah. In order to register for that, you can find the link in our e-news update this Wednesday. And if you do not get the e-news update, I invite you to do that, to go to our website and sign up for our newsletter to receive it. But you can also email me, drjane@unityspokane.org, to get the link as well. The other thing that's coming up is if you've ever thought about becoming a chaplain, a Unity chaplain, if you're interested in being part of the prayer team or learning how to lead meditations or being a part of the special services that we do here or doing wellness calls with people, also visiting in the hospital when we can do that again. But in the meantime, we can also do telephone visiting that way. Any of those things, if any of that interests you and you would like to check it out, you can do our chaplain training. It's over 3 sessions, 2 Saturdays and a Monday in between. The Saturdays are October 3rd and 10th. The time is from 10 till noon for the morning session and 1 till 3 in the afternoon, both days. And then on the Monday, during the typical time that the chaplains meet, there will be a practicum. This is all being done online. And you can just go to the beginning workshop, which is on affirmative prayer, if you're just interested in that. You don't have to become a chaplain to come to that. But if you want to take the training, then you need to be at that as well. You can sign up for either of those, the affirmative prayer workshop or the training, again on e-news. In the e-news, there'll be a link. And the final thing is that Reverend E.J. Niles, longtime Unity minister, former Bible teacher at the Unity's Ministerial School, is also an expert, I would call her, on spiral dynamics, has done plenty of research and study into that, and she is offering 5 classes on spiral dynamics. The first will be an introduction if you don't know anything about spiral dynamics. It can also be a review for those of us who are familiar with it. The second session will be on evolutionary change in the culture using spiral dynamics, looking at where we are now and how we can bring that forth for us. Very timely. The other remaining sessions are very focused on things like spiral dynamics in the Bible, spiral dynamics in with God and our concepts of God and how they have evolved over the years. Several very interesting ways that you can look at things through the spiral. You could do one of those classes, you could do all 5, you could do as many as you're interested in. Again, look for the information in e-news. And I think that's all I have to say this morning on that.
Okie dokie.
So we're going to have a song now.
We are.
Sean and Tani
All
are
right.
blessing us with
their music. Here we go.
Can I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever seen, everything I've lost or won, everything I've ever dreamed has brought me here to the present moment, here to a new beginning, here, and I'm seeing life so clearly now. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, my soul. Get ready, my soul.
And what a beautiful song to take us into our time of meditation. And so I want to invite all of us to really move into our heart space this morning. We want to do some work with the heart, knowing the power of that. And so I invite you, wherever you find yourself, to just sit back in your seat and relax for a moment. Let go of all the cares or worries you may have on your mind and your heart. Just set them aside for now. Any thoughts of the past, regrets over the past, or anxiety about the future, or just even thinking about what's coming next in your day. Let's gently set it aside and know we can pick it all up later if we choose. But right now, in this sacred moment, we turn within. And we begin to focus on the heart. You put your hand on your heart if you choose, if that helps you to connect with the heart space. We want to shift our attention to the heart. As we begin to follow our breath in and out, breathing in for 5 and out for 5. And as you begin to follow this rhythmic breath, feel your body relaxing. Notice how your body feels right now. Notice any areas of tension around your shoulders or neck or face, eyes. And as you continue with this breath, in and out, in for 5, out for 5, just notice how your body continues to relax. Now I invite you to bring into your mind's eye someone that you deeply appreciate, care about, love. Choose someone who can activate the feeling when you think about them. What is it that you love so much about them? What is it that you appreciate so much? Just bring them into your mind's eye and allow that feeling to activate. You don't want to just think about it. You want to feel it. And notice how your heart is warming. As you continue thinking about that person, allow that feeling to expand beyond your heart. Let it fill your body, saturate every cell with this loving, healing vibration, appreciation, care, compassion. Let it flood your body and move beyond your body as you just imagine this energetic field emanating from your heart. This field of peace and harmony. And now imagine sending this feeling of love and care and compassion to this person that you're thinking about, from your heart to theirs. And as you do, imagine seeing their face light up with recognition and gratitude. See the smile on their face begin to widen from this healing heart connection. Imagine sending forth this loving vibration. And as you do, imagine saying to this person, may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace. And now continue letting it grow and expand throughout your body and beyond as you imagine sending it to someone that you feel neutral about, an acquaintance, the clerk at the grocery store. Imagine beaming this love from your heart to theirs. And as you do, silently say to this person, may you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. Now imagine sending that love to someone that you are challenged with. Beam it from your heart. And as you do, imagine seeing their eyes filling with tears of gratitude. See the lines on their face soften. And feel the power of sharing the peace in your heart with someone that you have had issues with in the past. And as you do, silently say to this person, "May you be well. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace." And now widen the scope of the loving compassion and kindness that is coming from your heart, and let it envelop the planet and include yourself. And know that each one of us is here to be the presence of peace, to share our light with the world, to be the avenue through which Spirit expresses. And as our time of meditation comes to a close, silently affirm, "May all beings be well. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be at peace." And for the opportunity to be Spirit in action on this day, our hearts are filled with gratitude. And so it is. Amen.
Now I need a minute to come all the way back here. So I just wanted to begin my sharing this morning with acknowledging that, Jane and I have had this conversation that we only have so much time left. We have a set number of opportunities to convey what's in our heart that we feel is integral to what we now want to do with the amount of time that we have left here, is really present the transformational tools that we have found most beneficial in our transformational journey. And so Jane and I will do our own thing, and so my nature is to come up with several of the tools that I feel are integral to our capacity to really be in this world and not diminished by whatever is happening in the outer. And so today I'm wanting to talk about the power of the heart, because it's integral to our really possessing a capacity to kind of understand the dimension of ourself that is here to be the one to make a difference. You know, when I look around at the spiritual teachers that I follow, that I look up to, I notice that it doesn't matter who they are: Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Brene Brown. They all begin with recognizing that the heart is integral to any deeper experience of oneness or a connection or interbeing, that the heart is the seat of our creative capacity. It's the seat of intuition. And so as we look at the heart, and as we both understand that it is a symbol of our capacity to really open and be connected to a greater dimension of ourself, there is an actual reality of our heart with respect to its capacity to harmonize our brain and our mind. And so my talk title is Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled. It was originally out in the E-News by mistake as Let Your Heart Be Troubled, and of course we rushed to make a correction with respect to that. I mean, who would want to aspire to a troubled heart in these times? Indeed, actually, the fact that our hearts are troubled is a good indication that we are alive, that we should be somehow moved by what's happening in this world, and recognize that there are things that happen that should never take place if we are living in a conscious awareness of our oneness and our interconnection, our interdependency. And so the scripture in John chapter 14, verse 27, I believe it is, yes it is, also says, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid or be in fear. And so there are two aspects of what's going on in the heart that Jesus is pointing out. And once again, I'm wanting us to kind of hear Jesus' words, not in the context of religion or Christianity, but in the context of Him in His relationship to His disciples, wanting to give them a sense of the dimension out of which He was living His life, the dimension that Jesus was living His life. And we can just recognize that we can't see Jesus walking around with a troubled heart and living in fear, but rather recognize that this dimension of the heart is really susceptible to being drawn into the outer turmoils of life, and therefore we become modulated to the experiences that happen in our chaotic world. And so the recognition is that when our heart is troubled, or when our heart is in fear, it is literally being affected by what's happening in the world, and then we become within ourselves a house divided. We become incoherent. We become preoccupied, fixed on how our life looks and feels, as opposed to really bringing forth our felt state of oneness and connection. And so as we look to Jesus to kind of sort out the dynamics of how we can resolve ourselves to being in this world but not of it, Jesus didn't have the science of the heart to really convey that would be convincing people. In his day, the heart was seen as the essence of self. And yes, Apostle Paul said, be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And so there is the recognition of the mind aspect of our body temple. But there is always a differentiation. Take no thought for your life. And blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And so we can recognize that Jesus was bringing us into an awareness that there is a dimension of ourself that can see beyond the outer appearances of things, because it's not conditioned or contextualized to matters of the external world, which our head, our brain, our beliefs, our perception, our meaning making is all focused on interpreting and managing the associations of what's happening out there in the world. And yet our heart is a different dimension. And so as we recognize this admonition to be pure in heart so that we can see God, let's sort of separate that kind of statement from trying to look out and see all of a sudden this divine figure, or Jesus, or whomever we might have as our God thought. The idea is the pure heart is able to see the divine in what's happening in our lives. And that's what it means to see God. To be able to see another person and know that except for the grace of God, there go I. And so the whole dynamic of being able to see God, to witness the divine at work in our lives and in the world, requires of us the intelligence that knows that that's present, and not only knows that that's that is present, but it is there to be drawn out. It's there to be activated. It's there to be brought forth. We have to manifest things that aren't happening in the outer, and then that manifestation comes from that purity within ourselves. Our heart desires to connect. Our heart desires to forgive. Our heart desires to be inclusive of everything. So as I look to the great teachers of the heart and recognize, for me, my greatest teachers of the heart are Dr. Joe and Greg Braden, it's important for us to kind of recognize that there's a power there that is emerging as a part of the new science. And as we look to science, which is what I need to have science as a basis of my capacity to actualize those things that appear to be mystical or principle in my life, as opposed to the tools that I can actually work with and that I'm accustomed to in the outer. I want to have the same kind of tool to work with respect to what's going on inside of me. And so Greg Braden is going to share some ideas about the power of the heart, and specifically the intelligence of the heart. And so after we give it a watch, we'll unpack it just a little bit. So check this out.
Scientists now recognize we have within our hearts about 40,000 specialized cells concentrated in a very precise way in our hearts. The specialized cells, they are called sensory neurites. Sensory neurites, that's a very technical term. It means they're essentially brain-like cells, but they're not in our brain. They're in our heart. And they are in our heart, concentrated in such a way that scientists now call these cells in our heart the little brain in the heart. But this kind of discovery is so powerful in what it is that he found, these 40,000 cells in the human heart, because this isn't a metaphor, this is literal. These cells in our heart, they learn independently of the cells in our brain, of the neurons in our brain. They think independently of the cells in our brain. They feel independently of the cells in our brain. So what we're finding now is that we have a form of intelligence focused in the heart that can function completely separately from what we typically know in the brain. They can also be married. They can be harmonized with the human brain. The heart and the brain may be harmonized in a very precise way to awaken these functions. Harmonizing the heart and the brain gives us access to extraordinary states of deep intuition. Your body interprets heart-brain harmony as healing, as love. This is how we love our bodies, in a language that our bodies recognize. When we harmonize the heart and the brain, we set up a conversation. That conversation is what triggers over 1,300 biochemical reactions, positive biochemical reactions in our bodies. Anti-aging hormones kick into overdrive. Powerful immune response kicks into overdrive. Cardiovascular benefits kick into overdrive just from this heart-brain communication. We can measure this conversation between the heart and the brain electrically, and it is a very low frequency. So this isn't an esoteric essence of prana or aura. This is an electrical and a magnetic frequency, and the electrical part is a very, very low frequency. It is 0.1 hertz. So what this means is if you can create a feeling in your heart of 0.1 hertz, then that feeling is going to harmonize your heart and your brain. So how do we do this? 3 steps. The first step is to simply shift your awareness from your mind into your heart. So if you can create a touch over your heart, your awareness will go there. First step. Second step, very simple. Slow your breathing a little bit slower than typical. Maybe 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale. And here's why that's powerful. Because the only time you would ever slow your breathing and breathe in that way is when you feel safe. When you feel that you're in a place that's safe, and you're not threatened and you're not vigilant of your surroundings. Third step, and this is the key, is to begin to feel the feeling that creates 0.1 hertz. Feel the feeling that sets up the coherence between your heart and your brain. Appreciation for anything or anyone, gratitude for anything or anyone, care and compassion. If you can feel one or some combination of those feelings in your heart while you're breathing as if your breath is coming from your heart, touching your heart center, now you're setting up this communication between the heart and the brain. And what researchers have found is that typically 3 minutes, only 3 minutes, will set into motion a cascade of events within your body, biochemical events that will last as long as 6 hours. The immune response, the SIGA response, first line immune in the white blood cells of your mouth, they are reflecting this effect for up to 6 hours after you actually create the experience. It is the key to our personal power and to the doorway of all the abilities considered rare and mystical in the past. We don't have to go to a monastery halfway around the world to learn them.
Wow, there's an awful lot to unpack in this video. You know, the heart transplants have been around since the 60s, and we have heard of, anecdotally, people who have received the heart of someone else. We've heard stories of people now taking on the cravings of their donor. And, you know, that has been perceived as just a strange coincidence or phenomenon, perhaps, from the medical establishment. But it wasn't until 1991 that they were motivated. A French heart surgeon, his name was Amour, love, discovered the 40,000 neurites in the heart. But they didn't know to look there until they suspected that the heart had its own memory. And so what happened was, there was a young girl who was 10 years old. She received the heart of a 12-year-old who was passed away recently. After receiving that heart, she would have nightmares. 3 or 4 times a week, she would wake up with horrific images and experiences, and as they sought to support her, giving her some support and help, she went to a psychiatrist who, after hearing about the nightmares, determined that what was really happening was she was recalling a memory. And so they placed her in touch with a forensic artist who was able to, based on her description, be able to describe the donor's attacker and what he said in verbatim, as well as describe an accurate portrait of this individual. This individual was arrested and was convicted on murder of this 12-year-old that he had killed, and this individual, 10 years old, remembered the whole thing. And so in the discovery of the heart as actually having what is now called the little brain in the heart, it has an independent intelligence, an independent feeling and memory and understanding, and it also is our access to the dimension of ourself that is the seat of intuition. But the whole idea of recognizing that the heart has an intelligence is also important for us to recognize that intelligence has to be married to, or there has to be a kind of harmony or coherence between the heart and the brain. Because the science also tells us that when we are experiencing depleting emotions, those depleting emotions send an incoherent signal to the brain, which causes us becoming more excessive about obsessing and focusing on the outer situations, as opposed to really utilizing that part of ourself that can see other things once we have the eyes to see. But associated with this dimension of ourself that is capable of transcending the physical brain, our individual conditioned mind, then we have to not only activate this part of us that is this dimension, that this is this intelligence, but we have to connect it up so that it influences how we look out at life, how we make meaning, how we see things. And when we see things in the context of our heart, eventually we see in the context of God. Eventually we see in the context of principle. We see in the context of oneness, of interbeing, of our interconnection and dependency. So there becomes a need to then create an experience within ourself that he describes as heart-brain harmony. And when that happens, it unleashes a sea of biochemistry that fills us with the capacity to renew our bodies, to shift from our sympathetic to our parasympathetic nervous system, where we can rest and digest instead of be hypervigilant with respect to how our life looks and feels. This heart-brain interaction and balance enables us to have access to dimensions of creativity that are heretofore blocked if we're not allowing the heart-brain harmony to begin to affect a kind of integration of our brain's hemispheres. So there's so much science that corroborates these principles. It's important for us to acknowledge this and recognize that if we're not in the practice of becoming heart-centered, we're really missing a very powerful transformative tool that can set us up for a cascade of resilience instead of us finding ourselves pushed to the point of overwhelm or breaking. All right, so as we look at the dynamic of the heart, we can be benefited by looking to such great organizations like the Heart Math Institute, for instance. Doc Childry, the founder of Heart Math, I'll get to Doc in just a second. But let me just reiterate, the last thing I wanted to point out was Greg Braden was talking about how we love our body, how we create a healing inner dynamic within the body, and that is beginning to align with that frequency that brings forth that heart-brain harmony. And so when we enter into the felt experience of gratitude, appreciation, of care, and of compassion, we are generating that frequency which sets up that heart-brain coherence. And so now we come to Doc Childry, and he offers this. He's the founder of the Heart Math Institute. Since emotional processes can work faster than the mind, it takes a power stronger than the mind to bend perception, override emotional circuitry, and provide us with the intuitive feeling instead. It takes the power of the heart. So we're not going to be able to kind of step out of working on the level of just mind and what we're making our life mean. We have to begin to recognize that there is intervention that helps us settle all of that busyness, that internal dialogue, and then reconstitute our cognitive faculties in the context of oneness, of interconnection, of this reality of interbeing. And so as we work towards developing heart-centered coherence and then also adding on to that heart-brain coherence, we need to kind of recognize that takes practice, that takes effort. So Heart Math has created tools. Jane and I have used Heart Math, and Jane is a certified Heart Math facilitator. We've used these tools for years, all throughout our marriage. And in particular, we have also used the devices that they have developed over the years to help us have a kind of biofeedback experience with respect to how we are doing insofar as generating coherence within our heart. So I spent yesterday working with what's called the M-Wave, which is a tool that you hook a sensor to your ear, and it measures your heart rate variability. And the screen that you see right now is one that represents what happened when I spent about 3 minutes just doing exactly what Greg Braden suggested, slowing my breath, generating a felt experience of appreciation and gratitude. And over the period of time, you see, as the graph shows, a high degree of coherence. The area on the green graph below shows you that for the duration of this session, I was in 100% coherent. And then over on the right-hand side of the screen, it shows you the score. And what the algorithm of the program does is that as you emanate the energy or the felt experience of that emotion, appreciation, gratitude, care, or compassion, it generates that 0.01 hertz frequency that results in your heart going coherent. Now, here's the other part of it, and that is when your heart goes into coherence, it begins to entrain the brain. That's how the brain and heart-brain harmony begins to happen as the heart becomes more coherent. Because the heart is the largest oscillator in the body, there's a phenomenon associated with oscillation called entrainment that was discovered with the invention of the pendulum clock. They would put all kinds of pendulum clocks on the wall, and they'd start them off swinging, and then they'd all eventually entrain to the largest clock, the largest oscillator, the largest pendulum. So as we understand the science behind that, we can understand how now the brain becomes entrained to this pure, coherent signal, and then it causes the brain to unleash the chemistry that Greg Braden described that we can experience. So this is an actual screenshot of what I did yesterday, and I spent the whole day yesterday in this great coherent state. And much of this talk is kind of arising from that place in me now. But anyway, I wanted to also demonstrate that it's just not, I mean, I've had practice, so you'd expect that I would have this kind of screen. But the next screen depicts where I went into coherence, as you can see right there in the green, and then I intentionally disturbed myself by thinking about what's going on in the world and what's happening. Wondering when we're all going to get back together here at church, and wondering just all kinds of wonderment. And as you can see, I got very incoherent. I dipped way down below to the red dimension, and so as I got into that incoherent place, which I intentionally wanted to demonstrate, then it was my work then to practice the technique and get out of incoherence into coherence. And so as you can see, after about 3 minutes or a minute and a half, let's say, I was gradually able to get back up into the green. But as you notice, I also dipped back down into the blue, which is kind of a mid range of coherence or incoherence. And I recall the thought. I recall the thought that happened that moment when I dipped back into the blue. I was thinking about a politician. So, I mean, just the thought is going to bring you out of coherence. And if we aren't really paying attention to that's not the science imposing itself upon us, that's the reality that we have to manage if we are to not become susceptible to the dynamics of our conditioned self. So I'm wanting to share now another aspect of the M-Wave program that we have found to be beneficial, that helps us ground this practice into a more felt experience. And in the program, M-Wave program, there's a lot of what's called heart video games. There's one in particular where you're given a screen in black and white, and your task is to color it in. And so I did that program. It's about a 3-minute long program. This is sped up quite a bit, so it can so we can do the 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and it gives you a sense of what happens. And it gets colored in as you spend the most time in coherence. And if you stop being coherent, it stops coloring it in. But as you'll see, here it goes. Oops. Oh, before we do that, I just wanted to show you the difference. The same person, and this could be me, in frustration, it's that kind of dynamic within the heart, and therefore that's the signal that goes to the brain. And so an incoherent heart is going to produce an coherent cognitive environment, but a coherent heart is going to entrain all of the systems within the body, and that's going to produce a different dynamic. in our head. All right, well, here's my working now with the M wave in this practice. So here we go. I'm starting to get coherent. It's coloring itself in. As you can see at the very lower left-hand corner of the screen, it's all green. That means I'm in 100% coherence throughout this entire demonstration. And it's just about complete, and there it is. And so that with practice, what we find is that we are able to enjoy this, and it becomes, like I said, a heart coherence game, and it's something that is amplifies the benefits. I'm wrapping things up now, and as I do, I'm wanting just to mention the benefits of heart-brain coherence. And while we hear this, it's important for us to also hear that these are not insignificant benefits. The benefit of feeling whole, feeling unity with yourself and the world, the benefit of deep inner peace, of decreased stress, increased energy and vitality, enhanced creativity, emotional intelligence and mastery, greater resilience, solid mental health, improved physical health, deeper emotional connection with yourself and others, and improved quality of life overall. Of course, these benefits are sound very appealing, but what we don't get is that it's so easy to achieve these benefits and so much more. Because the reality is that while we might not be able to afford the technology, it doesn't cost us anything to breathe evenly for 5 seconds, for 3 minutes, and then to generate that experience of feeling the heart-brain harmony bring us into the chemistry of loving our body, of healing our body. So as we look at heart coherence, we're looking at also other benefits, and that is tapping into our intuitive voice, the dimension of us that's not tethered to any of the beliefs that we have, but is tethered to rather the sense of being connected to the entire universe. And when we recognize that there's that place in us that has that connection, then as we cultivate that, we begin to recognize that we can ask for guidance. We can open ourselves to hear that internal voice, a still small voice. We can experience a heightened degree of creativity and our capacity to be able to solve problems and to see possibilities where heretofore, absent of that coherence, we were locked in to in-the-box thinking. And we can experience a physical state of renewal within ourselves because heart-brain harmony is already proves, unleashes the chemistry of well-being. It settles our nervous system. It brings us into our parasympathetic nervous system that allows us to restart our immune function and our capacity to really heal ourselves. So all of this matters in the sense of recognizing that we have this power. It's also been our experience that we've had to actually practice this in order for it to be developed at a place where it really becomes something that is absolutely integral and real. I recall a time when Jane and I were doing a workshop in Hamilton, Ontario, early when we were together. And we were doing a workshop on making the difference. And we were using heart math as a component part of what we were offering as tools. This is way before the Q process. And we had one young woman who came up to us at the end of our day. It was an all-day workshop. It was going to have the second part the next day, with needing to sit down and talk with us, had a problem with the child. And we were sort of rushed, and it felt like it was something that we really didn't have the heart to do necessarily. But for me, I took a moment and got in touch with my heart, and my intuitive voice said, no, do not visit with her about her problem. And so what I did instead is that I suggested that she practice the very practice that we just taught with asking her heart how she should deal with this situation. And so she left the room all disappointed that we weren't there for her to support her. But surprisingly so, the next day she returned with such appreciation for us having sent her on that assignment, because she was able to really connect up with that voice, and it was such a profound experience that the resolution of the issue with her daughter was forthcoming. She had all that she needed to proceed with what was bothering her. And so this stuff really works, and we want to make sure that you have these resources. HeartMath right now is having a program where they're giving away a lot of their stuff, and so there's the HeartMath Experience program, which is a wonderful package. I've subscribed to it myself. I use it. It's free, and so we'll post the URL that you can connect up to. You go to heartmath.org, and under the training menu, you'll find this. But we'll give you information about this. You can participate in learning these techniques and have all the science behind them, so that if you're not already beginning a practice, you can opt out of all the notifications. So it's not about them using you as a customer for you to be purchasing from them. However, all the things that I've described is available, and this is not a commercial for their products, but a commercial for their practice. All right, so I'm wanting to get to a place now where I can reiterate what the practice is, what we really want to begin to focus upon, remembering that there is an intelligence within us that has the capacity to illumine our thinking and what we're making our life mean. And if we're not activating this, if we're not cultivating it, it remains dormant within us. So the first step is to connect your awareness to your heart by touching your heart space, to physically touch it, because your attention follows your awareness, and where you put your awareness, there goes your energy as well. And as you heard Greg Braden suggest, the next step is to become aware of your breathing, to slow it down. And if you breathe in and breathe out for a count of 5, that's 10 seconds, that's 6 breaths per minute. That's slower than we're accustomed to. But remember, we are training we're teaching our body that it's safe. When we do deep rhythmic breathing, all of our default mode networks begin to go offline, because we're not necessarily having to think about any threats. But when we begin to give our body this experience of being able to let go, we activate the vagus nerve, which is another component part of the system where there's communication from the heart to the brain. The third step is that after we have created that rhythmic breath, within 3 minutes, our heart is going to be 100% coherent if we just keep our awareness on that breath. And then we add to it the awareness of someone or something that invokes the felt experience of appreciation, gratitude, care, or compassion, because that's the frequency of heart-brain communication, of coherence. And so as we bring that person in to invoke the feeling, that we begin to amplify that feeling by experiencing it in all aspects of our felt self, our sensations, our body. So we allow those feelings to grow and filling our entire being with a sensation of love and well-being. Now, we don't want to stop with just appreciating someone. We want to feel that for ourselves. We want to fill ourselves completely with a sense of love and well-being. We're in a sense, we don't need our head for any of this stuff. We just need to feel that within our heart. But that feeling is what aligns or allows our cognitive faculties to integrate, and for our higher brain functions to ride the coherence of our heart-centered intelligence and intuition. And then finally, and here's where the fun comes in, from this state of heart-centered coherence, you got to do something now, okay? Because something in you wants to happen because of this, okay? So you ask it a question. Ask it a question, or paint a picture, or write a novel, heal your cancer, release the past, see beyond appearances, and see God in yourself and everyone else. And so that's what we're here to experience. That's what we're here to bring forth. So it doesn't cost you anything to do this deeper work. You can take 3 minutes, 3 times a day to get heart-centered, and then bring that sensation of heart-centered coherence into the awareness that you're connected to all of life. And as you feel that sense of connection, and as you build that sense of practice, you'll begin to reap the rewards of those 12 benefits and those 3 conditions that unleash our intuitive and creative and renewal potential. Thank you, and God bless. All right, time to take it to heart.
Time to take it to heart. Well, thank you for that. I find it's always good to have a reminder about the power of the heart and what it can actually do, because it's surprising when you start to really delve into it, the amount of the effect that it has. It's not just some really minor thing. It enhances the whole immune system for 6 hours. It's really a lot. And
Right.
it can be very easy to discount the importance of this work and just shrug it off or think it's very simplistic and not practice it. And so it's great to be reminded of what it can do and what it does.
Right, we've had this training, this teaching for a long time, and we have gone through our own kind of journey of, we know all about heart math, but now it's almost like we can't not, practice this stuff, because it doesn't do any good just to kind of nod our head and say, yeah. You actually have to experience giving yourself love, giving yourself compassion, giving yourself care, valuing yourself, and we're not necessarily trained to do that.
Exactly. And in this time where we're all wearing masks, there's isolation, there's distance, we can practice this from behind the mask. That's one thing I was thinking. Go into a grocery store and get yourself into a coherent state before you go in, and really emanate that as you're going in. So you're not having any kind of contact with somebody physically, but you are connecting with them in a much deeper place. So very powerful practice. And another thing is that, we want to remember that this is how Myrtle Fillmore healed her body. She didn't know about heart math, she didn't call it this, but she literally loved herself back to wholeness. And that, that is not a small thing. We have a whole movement based on her work. And so for us to always be going back to the power of the heart and remembering how it can change our lives, that's the work for us.
All right, well, with that said, let's...
Great. So we want to thank all of you for your continued support of Unity Spiritual Center. We can't do it without you, and so we're so grateful for that. And so we want to take a moment and kind of bless our offerings and our abundance here as we give thanks for this. So I'll invite us all to speak aloud our love offering blessing.
Okay.
I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And so it is. So, please join us for our Zoom meet and greet following this live stream. And I think we have Sean and Tani taking us out, do we not?
We have, yes.
We have the prayer for protection first. So I'll invite you to actually stand up wherever you are and join us in saying together the prayer for protection. And then Sean and Tani will take us away.
All right.
So, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth. And so it is.
close my eyes and I can see